it took India 109 days to get 1 lakh cases of corona, and it took just 9 days to get the next 50,000. That's the speed at which the virus is growing, despite all Indian experts talking about the curve being flattened and other half truths like that. We've done quite a few stories on Bombay in the past. So I remember we had this story called Maximum City Minimum Cover, which talked about the crippling shortage of hospital space in Bombay. And today we've looked at Delhi, and it's quite frightening because we find that if Delhi carries on with its current pace of doubling every 15 days, by the end of July you're talking about 2.8 to 3 lakh cases of corona. And the reason why this is possible is that right now we are finding that out of every 100 people, just look at that number, for every 100 people being tested for corona in Delhi, 21 are turning to be positive. So that 2.8 lakh number by the end of July looks very feasible. At that point, Delhi will have about 13,500 cases per million population, which is sort of the global average when you look at countries like New York, when you look at cities like New York, London, Milan, Singapore. So those numbers are quite frightening. Certainly at 13,500 per million, Delhi is going to have a crippling hospital shortage. But the sad news is that even at 6,000 cases per million, which is the number you'll reach sometime in June, even at 6,000 cases per million, Delhi has a crippling shortage of hospitals. Actually, you have ICU beds at 6,000. When you come to about 10,000, even the beds, the main hospital beds become are in a shortfall. So that's quite problematic. Read the Express for it. In fact, things are so bad that a former advisor to the Planning Commission, Gajendra Haldia, has written a front page piece for the Express, for the Financial Express, called, basically saying that treat it like a war. And if it's like a war, you must have a war room. And the person in charge of the war room must have the powers of a general. He should be able to tell the central government what to do. He should be able to tell the states what to do. Because without that kind of coordination, you're just not going to be able to solve the pandemic. Keep in mind that, for the last 1 week, we've been hearing stories of while Mumbai is in the grip of a massive pandemic and inability to find hospital rooms, the political establishment is actually playing games, looking at replacing the Thackeray government. So that's the kind of, the game that our politicians continue to play despite the pandemic that India has. I'm afraid there's a lot more depressing news in today's Financial Express. I'll just draw your attention to two of them. One is the SBI has just cut the deposit rates to a 17-year low. So for anybody who had money in the bank, retirees, pensioners, people who had money in the bank, that's really bad news because that's a 17-year low. And the other piece of bad news is that Credit Suisse has estimated that Indian banks will require $20 billion of fresh capital because of the NPAs that will come up due to the pandemic here. So that's not good news, I'm afraid. And that's all for now. Thank you. Have a great day.